We're live. College football show. We're live. We got the whole crew, Dylan. It's finally the PTO. They finally ran out of PTO on the bottom of our screen right now.
That's what I'm saying. One of the most generous PTO policies in all of small sports podcasts across the nation.
Great boss. Great boss. What for PTO, we supposed to get like an hourly rate? How's that work? Who do I need to submit that to?
That's
HR
true.
department?
It's just TO. It's just TO.
Yeah.
I think we're all getting about the same hourly rate here. Yeah, it's just time off.
Code KarterKast SeatGeek, please.
Shout out to the people who say, man, y'all do this for a living. No, actually, we don't.
Oh, well, but you can't say that, though, Connor, because then it's like, oh, I could tell. Oh,
true. There's no winning.
No winning.
All right, well, enough about the people in the comments. Enough about the haters. We got Ole Miss, right? This whole show, Ole Miss over Georgia. That was the easiest thing in the world. I
loved it.
But I will say LSU was a disaster.
Some of us were wrong about LSU in a night game at home. I'll put my hand up. Say Jalen Milroe ran over that team like they were a JV team. So I was wrong. Hand up on that one. But let's just focus on Ole Miss. That's all we need.
But
Ole Miss, quick, I'm okay with that.
Real quick, last thing on LSU, real quick. I'm glad we don't have to talk about them as a playoff contender anymore. They're done. We don't have to think about that anymore. And also, we don't have to pretend that Garrett Nussmeier is a good quarterback anymore. Has that finally come to bed? All these shows and everybody on Twitter is like, ooh, Garrett Nussmeier, this guy, he could sneaky move his way up to a top 5 pick. This guy is nowhere near Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no. Were people saying that?
Yes. Was
that a product of there not being a ton of good college quarterbacks, so people are kind of grasping at straws saying, oh, well, Nussmeier, like in this class of quarterbacks, could be, one of the 5 best. In reality, it's just a down year for quarterbacks.
There was a time this year we were but I saw people talking about Miller Moss in the same light as some of these guys. And look how far we came from that. Preston Stone. I was Preston Stone.
There was a lot of Preston.
I was Preston Stone, as has been noted previously.
I looked back at some of the preseason predictions, and then I was going through looking at teams' records and whatnot, teams we don't typically talk about, and I noticed I had Oklahoma State winning the Big 12, and they have won 0 conference games in the Big 12 and are 0-7 in the Big 12 and 3-7 overall. So I think I was wrong. I don't know yet.
I had Oklahoma State over Kansas, so it's okay.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Let's start the show today. College football playoff discussion. I don't know. How do you want to do this, Dylan?
Well, I want to start by saying this. So I went live from the KarterKast TikTok for the first rankings. And am I the only one that the seeding just messes me up? Because you see the ranking and then you see the seeding, and it's like, Ohio State, as of right now, Ohio State is not winning the Big Ten. They have Oregon winning the Big Ten. But Ohio State is ranked like 2, but then they get the 5 seed. It threw me for a loop. But I saw a lot of people upset, specifically about Indiana being ranked so low, ranked number 8. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Obviously, they haven't played anybody, but I think we've all seen the Joel Klatt graphic where Michigan last year was in the same exact spot, like the 111th strength of schedule. They run the table and win. I think maybe Georgia from 2 years ago was the other one, very similar spot. So wanted to get your thoughts about Indiana because a lot of people seem to think they were rated too low.
Too low?
Well, I feel like the people in the committee, I feel like they think it's going to work itself out. If Indiana does lose one of these next few games, then it's not going to matter. They might as well put them wherever they want right now. Too low, though, I agree, Carter. Like, I don't know if too low is the right thing for that, because at the end of the day, if Indiana does lose a game and there's a 2-loss SEC team, the committee's probably going to value the SEC team over them, which I don't know if that's right or not based on strength of schedule, because the SEC is just so good all around at the top. But I don't know if Indiana was necessarily too low. I feel like it was probably right on.
My problem with all of this, as in whole, and I'll let you go, Ben, after this. My problem with the whole college football playoff thing is, why do the games not matter? Why does it matter what the name of your school is? Dylan, you roll your eyes. You sit here and roll your eyes. What win does Penn State have that's better than a BYU? Name one.
You say, that's fair. You say the same about Texas. What win does Texas have that's better than Indiana or BYU?
Texas
No,
won
come
at
on.
Michigan and blew them out. So
Come on. That win is looking worse and worse as the weeks go.
Michigan went toe to toe with Indiana.
Oh, but come on now. I'm a Michigan
Indiana.
fan. I'm the first one to
Same
defend
quarterback
Michigan.
played. Same quarterback played.
That took a Curtis Rourke interception at their own 8-yard line.
To
to
all
even
of a
be
sudden
that
we're gonna,
close.
Okay, he threw an interception. Like, why are we? Interception's fluky all of a sudden. That's
Never did I think I'd be sitting here talking down on Michigan to you, Carter. But that Indiana,
But that's my
that was
problem.
not.
Why do we put these BS Big Ten wins when you're beating teams like Northwestern and Purdue? Why are these so much more elevated than beating an average Big 12 team? They're all the same. They all kind of stink. But why is that being elevated? What in your mind? What is the difference between a win against UCF and a win against Northwestern?
I mean, Indiana is blowing out just about every team they play.
Okay,
That would
they
be
didn't
the,
blow
that
out
would
Michigan.
be the. That would
Michigan-
be the. No, I don't want to.
No, go ahead. Ladies
Hey.
first. Ladies first.
No, I'm not going. I forget what I was going to say anyway.
Can I jump in? Hey, I'll jump in. I'll jump in here. I think the biggest issue I had wasn't necessarily like, I almost like when the committee almost kind of sets a, whether I agree or not, like a precedent of like, we value this. I felt like that was kind of lacking. I know there's a lot of people mad about Indiana. And look, you can make arguments about one loss Penn State being over them. You know, Dylan's bringing up Texas. I think the issue I had was, and this has already worked itself out, and it will when it's re-released again, but why was Miami 4 and Indiana and BYU were 8 and 9? And, I mean, I know I'm biased as a BYU fan, but I felt like BYU's resume held up better than Indiana, frankly. I mean, I understand margin of victory was a bigger thing with Indiana, but BYU had wins over SMU at SMU and against Kansas State, a blowout against Kansas State. Something that those are 2 wins that Indiana doesn't have so far this year of that quality. I do also think that a lot of people kind of threw in BYU as like they just win all of their games close, when really like they've only won 2. They've had 2 of them. But like everyone made it sound like they were just kind of barely escaping all of these bad Big 12 teams. And that's happened twice, but they've dog walked most of them. So yeah, no, I think it's the lack of precedence that like kind of bugs me. It's like the inconsistencies.
Yeah, and
How
well,
about
it's
we
my
just-
problem. My issue here, Dylan, is it feels like it's a mix of a power rating / ranking. It's not just a pure ranking.
I would agree with Ben. I just looked at both their schedules. The whole Miami debacle, obviously it sorted itself out, but having them as high as 4 does seem a little crazy. The only reason I could think they did that was because of Heisman, because Cam Ward and the Heisman talk. That's really the only reason I could rationalize that. But looking through the schedules, I do think that Ben's right. The BYU wins against SMU, that one's looking better as the weeks go by, and then Kansas State as well. So I guess there is some credence there. But how about, can we just do a pact? Let's just have a pact here. Bump out the ACC, bump out the Big 12.
Oh, here we go.
Let's just let the real teams play. Get a couple 6 Big 10 teams, 6 SEC teams in.
Is that Brandon
And
Walker?
Let's just make this an actual playoff here, okay? Like we don't need the Miamis, the BYU's. Notre Dame shouldn't be sniffing this playoff. Let's just kick all them out and then let's let the big dogs play.
How many national titles does the Big Ten have over the last decade?
I can remember one for sure. Ohio State in 14.
Decade.
That's
yeah,
pushing
so,
the deck. That's
Oh,
pushing
that
the
was
decade.
pushing.
That made me laugh out loud, realizing that Ohio State national championship was 10 years ago.
That was
I can't even remember it, Ben. I can't remember it. I don't even remember it.
And then how many has the ACC won in that time?
I don't know. Clemson had a
Dabo
few.
came through for us, didn't he?
Yeah, Clemson's got 2. What are we doing here?
Big Ten
No,
has
eight-
2. Well,
Is
we
that
do- how
thumbs
many-
up?
ACC greater than NC State.
Shout out Nash.
The one topic I wanted to bring up to you guys is the SEC. There is a scenario where in conference play, there could be 8 teams with 2 SEC losses and an 8-way tie for first place. If Tennessee loses to Georgia and then A&M Texas, there's a whole scenario where there's 8 teams. Are they going to get punished in the college football playoff rankings for being so good at the top? Because listen to this. The Big Ten has undefeated Oregon and Indiana and 1 loss Ohio State and Penn State. That 5 and 6 seed in the playoff rankings, I feel like they could both be Big Ten teams. These SEC teams are kind of cannibalizing themselves, and I feel like they're going to get punished for all those teams kind of beating each other. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're going to get punished in a way. I guess there's no way to say because it's going to be either. I think the interesting part is what's going to matter more, your wins or your losses. Are your good wins going to matter more, or are your bad losses going to matter more? And Alabama is going to be the prime example. I cannot wait to see where they put Alabama this week and going forward, because Alabama has some super impressive wins and they have some terrible losses on their resume.
I think that's fair. And the one scenario I was looking at is if there is if it is Oregon, Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, if Indiana flames out, the 1-loss loser, if Oregon loses that title game, they're going to get a 5 seed over a 2-loss SEC team. Like we could very well see the SEC second place team be like a 7 or an 8 seed in this playoff, which is kind of unthinkable coming into the year. And I don't know how they're going to do it. There's 12 teams that get in, so they have a little more freedom with the rankings of, when it was 4 teams, it's, you missed out. And that was the whole argument. Now we're talking about seeding. I don't know. It just seems like the SEC is going to get punished for kind of cannibalizing itself at the top, which I don't know if that's necessarily right or not. Kind of goes back to Dylan's point of, all the better teams are in the SEC, so let's just have a big super conference and play from there.
Can I pose a question?
Yeah.
I'll start with you, Dylan. If Ohio State loses to Indiana, do they get into the playoff? Should they get into the playoff?
I mean, I understand what you're asking, and I don't mean that like you're trying to get a clip or what. I mean
no.
It's so tough because there are. I don't think Notre Dame should be in if they win out. I think Notre Dame shouldn't be in it. I mean there are teams here like BYU drops one, they're out. That opens up a spot for Ohio State. Indiana drops one. You can make a case that they should be out. So there's like a lot of things that have to happen here. If you're asking me, is Ohio State a top 12 team in the country, even if they lose to Indiana? Yeah.
Because then you have to compare them to all these 10-2 SEC teams and then likely 1-loss ACC teams. Because now we've gotten to a scenario where in the ACC, Miami might not even make the title game.
That was my next point, is that Miami's loss to Georgia Tech, I think, ruined any chance of the ACC getting potentially 2 teams in, because if a 12-1 Miami team loses in the ACC title game, if that was their only loss, then maybe there's an argument for them to get in as one of those at-large bids. But because they lost to Georgia Tech, the only team the ACC is getting in is the conference champion. I don't think there's a world SMU gets in if they don't win the conference. And if Miami's second loss is the ACC title game, I don't think they get in over any of these SEC teams.
Can I also ask another thing real quick, and Ben, then you can go after real quick. Let's say SMU wins this title game, or Clemson. SMU or Clemson wins the ACC title game. But let's say Boise State wins out and they win. Could Boise State sneak around and get that 4th overall seed, and the ACC gets bumped into the 5-12 matchup because it's the 4 top-ranked title teams? It's not ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC. It's the top-ranked conference champs. So
I don't think they would do it.
Boise State could theoretically move up because let's say, a 2-loss Clemson team, and Boise State, their only loss would have been a 1-score game at the ropes at Oregon. I think Boise State would jump Clemson at that point.
I'd say they should, but I'm not sure if they would, because although I think it would be the right call, I do think you're approaching like I think the committee looks at that and goes, ugh, I don't know. Like, we should do that, but I don't know if we have we have the balls to do it, frankly.
But what if GT's the Heisman? What if he's the Heisman favorite? And they're like, you know what? The Heisman playing is the 4 overall seed. Because if Clemson's only good win is against SMU in Charlotte for the ACC title game, I don't think they necessarily deserve it over Boise State.
I agree. Now, I agree. I don't know if they would deserve it. I just can't see that actually happening.
Yeah, that's probably
tough.
fair.
It'd be tough for them to do. You remember when SMU almost lost to Nevada week 1? And I was ready to throw the towel in on him.
Yeah,
I just want to bring that up.
I didn't think we'd be here. After they lost to BYU, I didn't think BYU would be 9-0 going into week 12. So
No, Karter and I watched that game together, and I think our kind of takeaway was these are two very mid teams playing each other.
At
They
best,
actually
bowl teams.
are potentially the 3 and 4 seed in the playoff.
who would have thought? Dylan, you can take a victory lap here. 4 of the top 5 teams are Big Ten teams.
What can I say? And we do it different over here in the Midwest, right? We just do it different.
Or counterpoint.
You sound like a seal over there, Karter. What was that?
Or is the Big Ten just a really bad conference outside of those teams? That's a point we never like to bring up.
We talk about this every year, Karter. Last year we won the national
Because it
championship.
is.
What do we got to do?
I watch these games. Purdue can't complete a pass. Purdue is one of the worst teams I've ever seen. Northwestern stinks. Illinois is the most fake ranked team
Rutgers.
I've ever seen.
But at the
Rutgers-
top, we're pretty top heavy.
because you're beating bad teams.
Well, Oregon plays Ohio State. Ohio State's going to play Indiana. Like it's going to figure itself out. What are you
Is
talking
it?
about?
I don't think. No,
we don't
I
just play
actually
bad teams.
No. I don't think it's going to figure itself out
I don't
because
either.
the top 4 teams are the only ones that are going to beat each other, and so therefore they're not actually tested outside of that.
Okay, not all conferences can be as bad as the Big 12. Sorry about it. Sorry about it.
Sorry. You know the Big 12 is going to win the national championship. I mean, we're one step closer to Mormons versus Coach Prime, though.
Not all teams can cheat like BYU can. Ooh,
Cheat.
Ooh.
Cheat.
The
They
phantom
call
holding
them
call.
cheaters. BYU did not cheat in that game. That was a hold. Real quick, if you didn't see it, if you didn't see all the post-game stuff, just hilarious across the board. The Utah athletic director, Mark Harlan, I keep getting his name wrong, Mark Harlan, comes out and he's like, that game was stolen from us. And we were happy to come into this conference. We're not so happy anymore. This conference is a joke. Blah, 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 blah. I have never once in a million years seen an athletic director show up to the press conference. I have to go to these press conferences all the time. Not in a million years have I seen an athletic director do it. That is the biggest crybaby BS I've ever seen from a school in my life. And I'll be honest, I'm a BYU fan. I'm from North Carolina. I don't really give two craps about the BYU-Utah rivalry. It doesn't really matter to me. It really feels it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal in my mind. Guess what? This is Utah showing their hand to the national media. It's like, oh, they're a bunch of crybabies. And really, with the University of Utah, what have they accomplished? They beat an injured Caleb Williams in the Pac-12 title game and lost in the Rose Bowl, and then had one good year with Urban Meyer. What else have they done in their history?
Hey, they
Not
lost
a
in the
thing.
Rose Bowl. They lost in the Rose Bowl twice. Come on.
They're good at player
No.
retention. They've got a couple
No.
seventh-year guys on there.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think, Karter, the thing that bugged me the most about that statement was we were happy to come into the Big 12. Now we're not. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, what's the alternative?
Well, also, it's kind of like we were happy to go to the Big 12. Like, the Big 12 is blessed to have us around. Hey, you know why you're in the Big 12? Because the Big 10 and SEC didn't want you.
And
If they
because
wanted you, they would have taken you right then. But,
And
like, they're
Mark
kind of like, they've got this whole thing where they're like, the Big 10, we're going to get into this, like, Utah state bubble thing, but they are convinced the Big 10 wants them. That, like, is a thing. And it's like, you are just a football program that isn't even all that good. So...
And their coach is leaving after this year. That's the other thing. Well, likely leaving. That's the rumor. But
He's
then
just going to
also,
quit.
Then what's so crazy to me, too, is Utah acts like this. And then Mark Harlan was the one who screwed up the Pac-12 media rights deal with Apple TV. He's the one that said no to it, and therefore the Pac-12 couldn't sign the deal, and then they were stuck without a conference. It was all 100% his fault. It's crazy how they keep playing this victim, and it's hilarious how just irrelevant this program is about to become in all facets of college sports. And just hilarious. Like, imagine if Duke's AD came out after the Duke-Carolina game in the Final Four, came and sat down on the podium and said, that game was stolen from us. RJ Davis flopped at the end. That was not a foul on Jeremy Roach. You know how awful that should be received, Connor?
Oh yeah, that would be like a fork in the heart of like everyone would just lose respect for you because it's like you can't come out after a game as the AD especially. Like if a coach, you've been on the field and you're a little bit emotional, we see it all the time. For an AD to come down in a position of power like that, I think it is just like it kind of takes you down. And even as like an unbiased fan like I am in a BYU Utah situation, I'm like, did that actually just happen? Because now I'm going to look at Utah differently and be like, oh, so you're the program that came down and the AD cried about a ref call in a football game.
Yeah, exactly. Dylan, any thoughts?
Here is
not even like a championship game at that. It's a regular season game. Let's just also.
As a regular season game when you're barely going to make a bowl, now you're not going to make a bowl.
I'll be honest. I don't care. Now I will say, I logged on to the KarterKast X account the morning after. I fell asleep during the game. Utah was up, I think, and I woke up to BYU winning 22-21. I logged on to the KarterKast X account, and I go through For You page. I go through following. I had not seen that many Mormons upset since the 2012 presidential election. Just everybody on the feed. I can't believe he said this. Oh, he should be fired. Oh, so my official take, I kind of respect the fact that the AD's there complaining about the refs, but I just don't. Maybe it's because I'm not there. I don't know, but
this is my whole thing. This is my whole thing with the BYU Utah rivalry. Dylan and Connor are showing to the world that people in Utah are going to listen to this. No one cares. That's the matter of fact.
Well, that's the difference in like a BYU Utah rivalry versus a national rivalry
yes,
that we can see on like an actual scale that you can go up in a random bar or a grocery store and talk to about.
Or they don't play at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think, right, for Connor and Dylan, their interpretation of seeing the final score of that game was, oh, undefeated BYU that's in the driver's seat of the Big 12 avoided losing. That's the only takeaway.
That's the headline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this anymore because it's honestly very stupid. Why should we even be talking about a team that's maybe going to make the famous Idaho Potatoes Bowl if they're lucky? I don't know about that. And
playing Michigan.
That topic was your idea, to be fair. But
it was my topic. That's why I'm saying I'm done with it now because we spent too much time on it, which was my fault, I guess. But anyhow, let's get to Dylan's top 5.
Been waiting for this one.
I had to pull some strings. Last week did not go very well. I don't know why, but it seemed like people were more upset last week. Probably because it was after the Penn State game. But I promised the people. I said if Ohio State beats Penn State, I will put Ohio State in my top 10. They were in my top 8. You give people an inch, they want a mile. It's crazy. So we had a couple losses. Miami lost. Had to shuffle some things around. We'll start at 5, just like every other week. Number 5, Karter. I made you a promise on the NFL recap. Number 5, BYU, baby. Win your games. I've never docked a team for just winning their games, and that's what BYU's done. Number 4, Tennessee. Number 3, Texas. Number 2, Indiana. Number 1, reigning champion, Oregon. Any qualms?
No issues for me.
Nothing with Texas? I thought Texas I would get a little pushback. They haven't won a game.
No. But what about the rest of the top 5?
We'll go
first 5 out.
First 5 out. Number 6, Ohio State. Number 7, Penn State. Number 8, Alabama. 9, Ole Miss. 10, Boise State.
Okay, why is Ohio State not in the top 5 then?
Well, BYU's won all their games. Tennessee, what was their loss? Arkansas, but they beat Alabama, so I give them their credit there. Texas lost to a good Georgia team.
Is that the good Georgia team that didn't make your top 10?
Lost to a good Georgia team. 2, Indiana's won all their games. And number 1, Oregon, they're the best team in the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the top 5 power rankings are falling apart.
Well, wait a second. Why? Why?
Seems the train's going off the tracks here as we near the end of the college football regular season.
It seems like there's some inconsistencies there. So let's break it down real quick for the people. So you have Tennessee ranked above Ohio State, right?
Yes.
Who's Tennessee's loss against?
Arkansas.
Who's Ohio State's loss against?
Oregon.
Who is number 1 on your power rating?
Oregon.
Where is Arkansas?
they're very far off the list. They're very
Like
far.
11.
Yeah, they're 11.
Okay.
94th is what I read.
Then you said Tennessee's best win is home against Alabama, correct?
Yes.
Who is Ohio State's best win?
Penn State.
On the road at Penn State.
On the road
So-
at Penn State, yeah.
Therefore, why should they be lower than Tennessee?
Have you watched the games, Carter? I know
there
a
it
guy.
is.
I know
Eye
a guy. I know a guy that likes to put a lot of weight into the dog rankings, the dog factor.
No,
Well, you
it's
got-
not that. It's more so eye test.
Okay, eye test. We'll even go with that. Look, we don't need to rehash it. We don't need to do it. Tennessee has their work ahead of them. Ohio State has their work ahead of them. Ohio State fans, if you're upset, get over it. Trust this. I've said it before. Ohio State fans, this team will not let you down. Just give it time. Whether it's the Big Ten championship, whether it's in 2 weeks against Indiana, I promise you, they will not let you down.
Is saying the words like the eye test just a white collar way into saying dog factor?
It's like a buttoned up. Like I could go on First Take
Yeah.
and say eye test. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah, but
watch
then-
the tape. Watch the film.
Yeah, big film.
Yeah,
company.
yeah.
I watch the games.
But to be fair, these Wilkerson power ratings, nobody wants to see how the sausage is made. They just want the results. They just want to pop it in the microwave and consume it. Yeah. So nobody needs to know how they're made. It's just Dylan's personal thing. So I'm all in favor of it, Dylan. I'm with you.
Can we get these as the playoffs go on, where like Ohio State's made it to the semifinals, and then you have a team that lost in the first round over them? I
Yes,
really want
yes.
that scenario to play out. Can you please do that? Okay, that's my one ask of you.
Yeah, I can do that. And then I also, if you're watching, please, whatever you do not take these from when they first started and compare them side by side by side. Please do not do that.
And another thing,
Stand
real
alone.
quick, as a plug, Tuesday night, follow at KarterKast on TikTok. We'll be live for the college football playoff reveal. Dylan, right?
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will.
All right. I'll be on there as well. We'll react to the college football playoff reveal. Is it okay that I'll be joining from a basketball arena?
Oh, I don't care. I think that's actually a good thing. Is it's showing your dedication to football during basketball season.
What arena though?
I will be joining from the arena that they are releasing the rankings from. I will be at the Champions Classic on Tuesday night in Atlanta.
Okay, I thought it was going to be like a Hornets game, and I was like, no.
You know what? And if it was Ben, then so be it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, what were we tracking
Spectrum
the
Center's got
Hornets
some good
for?
Wi-Fi. Head up to the
Yeah, what
Honeybee
if-
Lounge.
Yeah, I'd have plenty of room. I wouldn't have anybody around me. I would have a fine place to hop on a
It'd be
TikTok
quiet.
live.
We'd be able to
hear
hear
Quiet,
you.
yeah.
You hear whispers in the
Hornets
background. Carter.
basketball. Like, Carter, hey, you're in.
Defense.
I'm like, me?
Defense.
That was a good defense chant, actually. That's exactly what it sounds like at the Hornets games. That's all you hear. Anyhow, top 5 quarterbacks. We had a change in the rankings this week, Dylan. Yep, everyone here changing the rankings. Number
Cam
5.
Ward?
No. Nope. Number 5, Dylan Gabriel. He's fallen.
Heisman favorite.
Now-
Preseason Heisman
now-
favorites back.
These rankings might be different because some off-the-field issues have happened. So we'll see. Number 5, Dylan Gabriel. Number 4, Jackson Dart. What a great game. What a great game this week. Diced up Georgia. Even injured, great. Gamer. Number 3, Quinn Ewers. One second. What is happening right now? Why is there a phone call coming in here? All right.
That's Quinn. That's Quinn trying to hit you up.
Yep, number 3, Quinn Ewers.
Block.
I don't think Quinn Ewers is trying to hit me up. Clearly, he has a type, and I don't think I'm his type. Anyhow, Quinn Ewers number 3, number 2, Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward's still number 1 for me. I don't care. You ask, why did Quinn Ewers make this big leap? And I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but Quinn Ewers has officially established himself as an SEC quarterback today.
Yes.
If you haven't seen on Twitter, Quinn Ewers, there's a screenshot of him just basically trying to get with some chick, and the DMs are hilarious and whatnot. But every
begging.
SEC quarterback,
Persistent.
He is begging.
yeah. But guess what? Yeah, like 8 texts in a row. Every SEC quarterback has to do it. It's like like an initiation. You have to be in the DMs begging for it.
Now, I do want to bring up, you kind of cleared it up, but I noticed that it's no longer Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. It's
Quinn
just
established
one.
himself. Yeah, QB1.
Okay, all right. He's the guy. He's the guy in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the guy in
I'm
Texas.
excited for the leaked Snapchat or leaked DMs of Arch Manning. That's really going to get the internet going.
I don't think that happens. I think they've got it too tight there.
The support
So
system.
he's not a
around him is
real
too buttoned up.
SEC quarterback.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think Arch is a real SEC quarterback because I don't think we're
he's
gonna
a Big
get this-
Ten quarterback.
Yeah, we're not going to see the DMs of him or the Snapchats of him being like, "Show me your tits," basically, like all these other quarterbacks are doing.
There we go.
Well, your
There's the
roof's
E
really
stamp.
big. Oh man.
I love you, Zion Williamson, if you're listening. Anyhow, let's take a quick break and then we'll preview some games. Georgia, Tennessee this week. Let's do it. Let's preview some games here. Honestly, this is the only one we're going to really talk about. Right now, right before we got on here, I saw Georgia is an 8.5-point favorite. 8.5
9.5
point
at some
favorite.
books.
9.5 point favorite. Tennessee here feels way too easy, Connor.
So here's the thing. I agree. You look on paper, Georgia's not 10 points better than Tennessee. I don't care what kind of field they're playing on. I don't care if they're playing in the middle of 500,000 Georgia fans. If you've got Carson Beck as your quarterback against this Tennessee D-line, which I really think will be able to get pressure. Tennessee rush defense is seventh in opponent yards per game overall. This D-line for Tennessee, this front seven, will be able to get home on Carson Beck. And I couldn't find the updated number after the Ole Miss game, but going into the Ole Miss game, Carson Beck, when pressured, 81% efficiency, 36% completion percentage, under 5 yards per attempt, 8.5% interception rate. The average for any drop back is 2.6. When he is pressured, he's a different guy. And I think this Tennessee front seven will be able to pressure him. And 10 points is way too much. I don't care where they are. So I love Tennessee with the points here. I don't know if they'll win, but you cannot lay 10 points with Georgia.
Are you worried that on Saturday morning we're going to see that tweet from all these people, the sports betting people, being like 97% of the bets and money are on Tennessee? You know, it's Joes versus pros. All the average Joes are betting Tennessee this week because that line feels way too big, Dylan.
I think that lines with no Nico. Nico didn't play the second half against Mississippi State.
Heupel said it was precautionary, though. How much stock do we put into that, or is he kind of playing it close to the chest, as we've seen many programs do?
I guess my response to that, even if Nico doesn't play, it's not the quarterback play that's Tennessee's strength. It wouldn't equate in a 4 or 5 point line change, which I think it opened at 10. Remember, I texted you guys whenever this opened, and it was 10.5. So it's been bet down. I want to point out something you said, Connor, about the defensive line. Looking at some PFF grades, take it with what you want. I am not exactly convinced that outside of Pierce, Tennessee's defensive line is all that much better than Georgia's. Georgia, they're much like more average guys spread around the line. You have Pierce on the right outside that is obviously amazing, but Georgia seems to be a little bit more well-versed in terms of talent across the whole line. Break down some position groups. Quarterback, I said Tennessee if Nico plays. Running back, Tennessee. Secondary, Tennessee. I said defensive line even. I said it's a wash when you're taking into consideration all the front four. Offensive line, Georgia by a landslide, not even close. And then wide receiver, I said Georgia. Even given that, 8.5, 9.5 seems to be way too much, way too many points here. I think Tennessee can muck this game up if they want to. Everything you said, Connor, run the ball. They run the ball extremely well, even with that bad offensive line. Dylan Sampson's been a beast. Let me see here. The one note I had that worries me about Tennessee is how easy their schedule's been compared to Georgia. Georgia has the 9th strength of schedule. Tennessee has the 72nd. I want to entertain something here. Both are top 30 in the most offensive penalty yards. I think under here is the play. I don't think it's a side. I think it's going to be run the ball, get it done on the ground. Etienne is a great running back. Sampson's a great running back. I don't think either of them are going to be very interested in airing the ball out. And even if Georgia decides to, the turnovers are a thing. In Tennessee's pass defense, I think they're like top 15 in pass yards allowed per game. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. That would favor the underdog, but I would go under.
I feel like my one argument is Tennessee's defense, though. They've been pretty good. And you look at the Ole Miss game last week with Georgia. Ole Miss had 5 sacks, and we talked about their front seven. We hit that on the money coming in. I feel like Tennessee's front seven is not that far behind Ole Miss's, at least on paper. That could be a caveat of the schedule. You could be right on that. But I don't know. I feel like they're going to be able to get Carson Beck. I can live with the under, though.
To speak to that real quick, Connor, it's Ole Miss is, I think, to go to make a point for Tennessee, Ole Miss is in the same boat as Tennessee. They haven't really played anybody. They haven't had many tough games. Their strength of schedule is pretty easy. And while their defensive line grades out better than Tennessee's, I do think that makes a point for Tennessee, saying, well, Ole Miss had success, and they've played just as easy of a schedule as Tennessee has.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to add, I do love the under here because I do think the defenses on both sides have an advantage over both offenses. I think this game is going to kind of come down to how well can they run the ball. I think I like Tennessee running the ball a little better. As Dylan said, I think the Georgia O-line's better, but I like Sampson more than I like ETN. So I do think Tennessee might have a slight edge there. I don't feel unbelievably strong about that. Also, Dylan was citing Tennessee's secondary is very, very, very strong. I mean, you look at it, Carson Beck has 12 interceptions this year. Nico has 4. This feels like a game where Nico, assuming he's healthy, doesn't do much of anything, but that includes not really turning the ball over. He won't move the ball down the field, but he's not going to make a mistake that's backbreaking. I could see Carson Beck throwing 2 interceptions that are backbreaking. And for that reason, I like Tennessee to win outright, frankly. So
I don't hate that.
But either way, I do love the under. Love the under, like Tennessee in the points, like Tennessee money line, but not as much as I like Tennessee in the points and the under. But
Tennessee's going to run the same game plan as they did against Oklahoma. Like Heupel said, I'm not going to take any risks here, and it worked out for him against Oklahoma. Now, obviously, we've talked about how bad Carson Beck has been this year. I still think their offense is better than Oklahoma's. They might have to change some things. But offensively for Tennessee, it's probably going to be the same game plan as it was against Oklahoma.
Yeah, but Oklahoma's one of the worst teams maybe the worst team in the SEC, if we're being honest.
The defense isn't that bad. The offense is awful.
The offense is one of the worst, not just in the SEC, in college football. The defense is an average to below average SEC defense.
So what are you taking here, Carter? Sounds like you might be trying to make a case for Georgia.
Absolutely, I am not. No way. No way. How could you? Carson Beck has been so bad. We saw the Texas game. He had a few interceptions in the Texas game, and they still won. That is not sustainable. This guy is an interception turnover machine. He keeps turning the ball over, and you can say, oh well, these teams, they're not going to win the turnover margin every game. That's going to change eventually. But we talked about Tennessee's D-line. Yeah, outside of Pierce, they don't grade out super well on PFF, but the corners grade out pretty dang well on PFF as well. Carson Beck's going to have a couple turnovers, and Tennessee's going to play complementary football. If Dylan Sampson has success on the ground, Georgia's cooked in this game. And you could say that on the other side of the ball as well for them running the ball with ETN, but Ben mentioned it. I trust Tennessee's run game more with Dylan Sampson than I do Georgia's, and I also don't trust Beck at all throwing the ball in the air against this Tennessee defense. I think it helps big time that this game's at Georgia. Georgia has been more battle-tested, but if you think the defenses are the same, you think the quarterbacks are roughly the same, I think the better run game wins out. Give me Tennessee.
And to be fair with this Georgia team, I feel like they haven't played a convincing half of football in a few weeks. And one thing with Tennessee is, yes, they're not as battle tested, but man, like they've looked the part at least against some of these lesser teams. And the one caveat I will say, if Nico doesn't play, is Georgia can just stack the box and make their backup try to throw over them. But even so, I think the under is a better play than even Georgia on the 10. Like if Garrett, whatever his name is, Tennessee's backup plays, it's time that we accept Tennessee for who they are. A power running team with a good defense, not that gunning team that Hendon Hooker had 2 or 3 years ago. I think it's still hard for us to accept that as watching Tennessee, but that's what they are this year. And I think that's kind of been Georgia's kryptonite, a team that can control time of possession and pace like that.
And I think
it's crazy we're talking about Tennessee team, and the first thing we bring up is defense.
Defense being the strength. Can't believe it.
Yeah.
And also, but it's because of the colors. Like when you wear cool colors like that, you gotta play big. You're an overs game. You gotta be putting up 50 points a game type thing.
Highlighter orange.
Yeah, you can't wear those cool colors and be a Big Ten football team. That's not fun.
Something else I want to bring up real quick. Ole Miss going into their game against Georgia last week. Ole Miss had the best run defense grade in the country, and it kind of showed here. 59 total yards for Georgia. Obviously, you have negative 20 for Carson Beck. That kind of makes that look a little worse than it actually was. But Tennessee's 8th. So it's really hard to see, like we were saying, Georgia have any success running the ball here. And, I am very interested in making Carson Beck throw.
100%. So let's do score predictions. Dylan.
Tennessee 24, Georgia 17.
Oh, touchdown win, Connor.
I'm going to go Tennessee 20, Georgia 17. I think they win by 3.
Ben.
Upset for the Orange.
Tennessee 21-20.
Another college game day graphic for us, huh, fellas? We might be undefeated on college game day graphics. Who knows?
I was going to say it worked for us last week.
Give me Tennessee 24, Georgia 21. Did someone else say that?
No, I
don't think so.
Nah, we're all
I don't think
points,
so.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Tennessee
I will
wins by
say-
3. It's going to be gross.
Is that
Caveat.
unders across the board too?
Oh, yeah, got to be.
Total's
I
40
think so.
right now.
Caveat, if Nico doesn't play, I feel like Georgia wins in a tight one.
Yes.
I don't think they cover either way. I'm taking Tennessee with the points either way, but if Nico doesn't play, I think Georgia does win this game.
Yeah.
I love it.
I agree with that.
Should we do some upset watch and then a parlay and we'll get out of here? First pick on the upset watch, guys. Kansas over BYU. BYU is the 7th ranked team in the country right now. Kansas is only a 3-point underdog against BYU. Now, Connor, you know what I love. You know I love night games in Provo. You know I'm a slut
It gets
for that.
weird in Provo.
It gets
Sun
weird in
goes
Provo.
down.
Night games in Provo. I think Kansas might have figured out how to win some football games and who they are. That offense looks unbelievable right now. BYU coming off a miraculous win against their rival on the road. This is a perfect letdown spot if there ever was one. I think BYU's up on big time upset watch this week. I'd put it on a 9 on the upset scale.
Yeah, you took mine. That was my number one upset watch this week. Kansas upsetting Iowa State as 3-point dogs last week. Dominated them, really. And then you look, they almost beat Kansas State as 10-point dogs, and then they put up 42 on Houston. They have figured something out with Daniels at quarterback. And you're right, BYU letdown spot. Huge win, emotional win against Utah. Barely scraped it out, still undefeated. This is the letdown spot. And it brings me no joy in saying that. But I think you're right on the money.
No, that was mine too. Especially looking at the slate, I couldn't find another one. I couldn't find another one. This was the main one for me. It is a letdown spot, as Connor added. Kansas is figuring out, it was always, they were kind of losing tight games too. It always felt like I always had some sort of confidence that by the end of the season, they weren't going to be an easy out. I also think in reality for BYU, they might lose this game and there will be panic. It changes very little, frankly.
No, because only going to be.
I just think they have to win the Big 12 title. I think that's what it comes down to. All it does is it ensures, hey, if you lose the Big 12 title, your chances have gone from iffy to 0. But I almost think this makes no sense. It's kind of, but it's almost like I'd almost be relieved to see them drop one, because I feel like if they don't drop one the next 3 weeks, it's coming in Dallas, and I'd rather get it out now, because if they get it out now, I like their chances in Dallas way more. It's stupid. It makes no sense, but that's where I'm coming from.
No, Connor, you'll know this. That's the college basketball coming out of you. That is a total college basketball mindset.
Oh, that is.
Lose in the conference tournament, get it out of the way.
Lose right before the conference tournament, or lose in the conference tournament. Get this loss out of the way so we can, really gear up and get ready for March Madness, because we can't go on a streak that long. You can't win 10 straight to win the NCAA tournament. No, we got to get this loss out of the way. I think that's a college basketball mindset.
I think you're right.
Dylan, is BYU on upset watch?
It's hard for me to say because I never stay up to watch them.
Oh, so you don't watch?
I never do.
I don't. Hey man, I'll be honest. I don't blame you. Back on the East Coast. Yeah, I was on a little sleep last night. I ended up watching the Lions Texans game this morning.
It's not for the faint of heart, Carter. I think going out to Utah, living out there, you kind of forget what it's like living on the East Coast. It's not. Once you're married and you got to get up for work, it is not for the faint of heart. God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and there are a lot of strong soldiers over here on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm soft, man. I've gotten completely soft. Real quick,
I'm like,
steamroll
the game's not ending at 10? What's going on?
Let's steamroll through some of these. Utah, Colorado. Is Colorado on upset watch?
I don't think so. I think Utah used up all their little pixie dust almost beating BYU last week. I think Colorado probably rolls them.
I think this is a Utah completely quitting spot.
Yeah, that's fair.
Completely quitting. Like, I think this BYU game was the only thing they had left. Once they dropped that, like, I think they're throwing in the towel this year. They're waving the white flag.
I think it's a 4 out of 10 for me, to be honest.
Better press conference: Utah AD if they lose to Colorado, or Dion if they lose to Utah. Who has the better press conference?
Utah AD still, but not by much.
Okay, valid.
Clemson Pitt.
This is a stinker.
Clemson's a 10-point spread, and I don't think that's enough points, to be honest.
Pitt sucks.
I will go into this game on my parlay pick because this game includes my parlay pick, so we can. I don't think there's an upset watch here.
No, I don't either. Texas, Arkansas. I'm actually driving to the West Coast this week, and we'll be passing through. Might stop by for a little Arkansas Texas action. I might mess around and go to the game.
Weren't you didn't you say 2 weeks ago that it's awful going to football games in person?
Yeah, but I also want to see them. It's both. I want to go to
the traveling man, Dylan.
Yeah, I don't like I don't like baseball, but I still want to see every ballpark.
Okay, all right. I was just making sure we were keeping up with the intellectual integrity of the show.
Yeah, we're not like the boom meter.
After the power rankings, that might be gone.
I know the quarterback ones were rough. Quarterback power ranking was rough.
Oh, yeah. Quarterback ones, even though Ohio State, not top 5 anyhow. Is Texas on upset watch against Arkansas? We saw what happened to Tennessee when they went into Fayetteville, but we've also seen some other teams have pretty easy success there as well.
My tiny brain just keeps thinking of that Tennessee game. That's the only reason why I would have them on upset watch. I will say I'm not completely sold on Texas. We touched on it a little bit. They had one real test and they lost. So I'm not sure here.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to throw that out there. Last couple, SMU Boston College. Shout out Boston College. Win total over. Ka-ching! Can they beat SMU this week?
No, they can't.
I
wish I could still be on the Boston College train, but they have looked awful this year.
Okay. 4 out of 10 for me. I think there's something a little there. I'm still not 100% sold on SMU.
Virginia, Notre Dame. Speaking of cha-ching.
Speaking of cha-ching. We need Notre Dame out of playoff content. We need them out. Whoever wants to do it, we need them out.
Like Calandria and South Bend. That would be amazing.
Real quick. Shout out Mark and Philly. Mark and Philly was anti-Karter and anti-Ben by saying Virginia under is his best bet of the year. Virginia over 4.5 wins. Ka-ching! Bang! Already cashed that. Virginia, Notre Dame. I'm saying Notre Dame sneaky upset watch this week.
This is a game where it's halftime and you're like, holy cow, it's tied. It's 13-13 at halftime in South Bend.
Yes.
It's gonna, even if Notre Dame pulls it out, I think it's gonna be one they have to sweat. I really do.
Yes, this is an upset watch game. It is a shame. This is not on the CW, because if this was the CW, easiest pick of my life right there. We got some other games like Wisconsin, Oregon. I don't think there's a shot Oregon blows that game. Iowa State, Cincinnati. Is that really an upset watch game? Like, who cares, to be honest? Those are just both meh teams. You think Wisconsin can beat Oregon, Dylan?
Camp Randall at night, things could get a little fishy. You know how I feel about teams having to go 2 or 3 time zones over. I don't have any deep stats there, but at first glance, I don't know. Things could get a little hairy quick.
Oh, and then the last one, Mercer money line against Alabama.
There you go.
Spot.
Jalen Milrose 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
Oh,
Unless Mercer
emergency
might be,
recording if that happens.
Mercer would have to play against like Jabari Parker and Duke if for them to win something like that. Yeah. So, anyhow.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
Anyhow, all right, that's it from us. Parlay pick.
Parlay?
Let's do it.
Who wants to start?
Oh, can I start?
Go for it.
Yes.
We've discussed it, but it's the Tennessee Georgia under for me.
Okay, love it, Connor.
All right. We didn't touch on the Clemson pick game for a preview. I'm going here for my parlay pick. They have 3 combined wins over teams with winning records. And real quick, if you would think Clemson's not a fraud, the combined record of Clemson's conference wins, 12-25 in ACC play. They played State, Stanford, Florida State, Wake, Virginia, Virginia Tech. Those 6 teams are 12-25 in conference play. Clemson's frauds. But Pitt might be even more fraudulent. I don't trust either quarterback. Pitt's quarterback is a turnover machine. Even if Holstein's out and Yarnell plays, he had 2 picks in 12 attempts last week for Pitt coming in off the bench. I want the under 54.5 here. I'm not even going to lay the double digits with Clemson. I think both these offenses are horrible, and the defenses aren't half bad, especially the rush defense for Pittsburgh. So I like the under 54.5 here. That's too many points.
Double under, real quick. I like Clemson minus 10 in that game. That's a don't overthink it spot for me, to be honest. But the under. My concern is, doesn't this feel like a game Clemson just puts up like 50 and just murders them?
I sure hope not. I feel like Klubnik might throw a couple picks too. We'll see.
That's fair, probably right. So yeah, let's take the under. We got the under in that game. Dylan, what's your pick?
You guys let me go Maction?
Tuesday? F it,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Okay.
We hit one last week. Rules are off.
That's true, yeah. Everything goes out the window. I'm going to go Western Michigan plus 8.5 versus Bowling Green Tuesday 7 p.m. I've been high on this Western Michigan team. They've been on the losing battle of some turnover stuff, and I think it reverses course here. Big game for the MAC. This could very well decide who makes the MAC championship. So I'm going Western Michigan to keep this one close, plus 8.5.
Oh, so shout out to our MAC correspondent, Dylan. Thank you.
I might go.
You might go?
No.
I was about to say, no way.
But it's close. It's like 2 hours from me.
It's like that's after 5 p.m. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I got to turn on Fox and Friends. I got to. That's when the 5 starts.
You know, whenever your team wins like a national title or a big game, and you're
Yeah,
like,
I do.
I'm gonna watch Sports Center afterwards, and you're like, I'm watching Sports Center all night. Was that how Tuesday night was, Dylan? You're just watching all night. You're just like, yes, just taking a victory lap for the last week.
That's bait.
No. I fell asleep. I was
stayed
locked
up
in
and
on
watched.
Kornacki, though.
It was hilarious. I have an awful pick, and it's probably going to come back to bite me, but give me the Virginia Cavaliers plus 23 against Notre Dame.
Woo! Let's go.
Oh man, that is high risk, high reward.
That was like the Frank Reich, just woo, woo.
I feel like Virginia keeps it within one possession, or they lose by 50. I don't think there's an in between.
So
No, it's tied at halftime, lose by 50 still.
Yeah.
Like that feels very in the cards.
should we just take Virginia first half money line?
Oh, I love it.
No.
That'd be fun.
All right, that's the parlay this week. Download SeatGeek, use code KarterKast, $20 off. Dylan, anything before we go?
I wanted to ask Ben. Sorry, kind of off topic. Ben, Virginia, BYU play each other. Who are you rooting for?
There was a world in which this happened 3 years ago, and it was Virginia. I think it's now shifted to BYU.
Oh,
Is
well,
that
who's doing better
because
this
they're
year?
undefeated?
Well, partially the stakes were. I mean, BYU was having a fantastic season against when they played Virginia last time. No, it's just more separated and more. It's just like I'm a season ticket holder here.
Okay.
I'm going to all the games.
Unlimited
It's like
Cougar Tails.
I had to get a text in Rice-Eccles Stadium from my dad being like, "Oh, Virginia won." I was like, "Oh, I forgot that was going on."
Okay.
That's kind of where we've gotten a little bit. Like, I watch them when I can, but I'm not making time like I am BYU.
Okay. Heard that. That's all I got.
All right. Connor,
On the
anything?
football side specifically.
No, can't believe it's week 12, guys. I mean,
I can't believe it.
Hey, all right.
just
Enough
messing.
of that. Let's
I
get
did-
over.
I did-
let's-
Yeah,
What? No. go.
I just had the epiphany today. I was like, oh, football season's almost over. But then I was like, no, it's not.
You've
We
had a
have 2 more
weekly
months. We
reminder
have 2
from
more
me
months
every
of
single
this.
week. And you've had a weekly reminder from me every week that it's almost over.
That's true.
I won't lie. The can't believe it's week 12. That actually wasn't ironic. I actually cannot believe it's week 12. Like it feels like week 12 is like the last year of the college or the last week of the college football season, but it's not. Like you said, Dylan, we got another month and a half of this.
I can't wait for Thanksgiving. Can't wait
And
for
also,
Thanksgiving shows.
We got a nice little college basketball NBA check-in coming in a little soon, so stay tuned for that.
First quarter NBA check-in coming up. Stay tuned.
Quarterly NBA check-in. That is coming after Thanksgiving for both of those. Make sure to tune into that. Subscribe at KarterKast on everything. Follow us on social media. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.